I hope that it has been a lovely week for you. This past weekend, my family and I went to a local gardens. It was a beautiful day, and so I'm going to share a little bit of that footage in this video behind me as I'm talking. So if you're watching, enjoy, and if you're listening, you can still listen to this video. It's just my family kind of walking around the gardens. I don't usually include my daughter in these videos, but I feel like this footage just illustrated a very beautiful day that we had as a family, and I think it's just one of my, I don't know, it's going to be one of my memories I think that I think about to keep me going when I'm having maybe some challenging days in motherhood and in my relationship and my marriage. This was just a wonderful day, so enjoyed that. We're going to continue to talk more about the empowered wife. Hello beautiful ones, and welcome back to my channel. I am going to be wrapping up the Skills of the Empowered Wife book by Laura Doyle. So this will be covering skill number 6, and if you're new here, I am so excited to have you joining me for this series. You have not missed all of it. There is a playlist on my channel that I would invite you to go back and review. If you don't know me, my name is Leisha, and I've been documenting my own personal leveling up journey since 2020 here on YouTube. I have been sharing my personal transformation from how I label myself as broke beach bum into now a feminine, elegant, and affluent woman. I am a wife of almost 7 years. I have been a mother for a little over a year now, and so I wanted to focus this year at the beginning on my relationship and improving that. And so I've started out with this book discussion on the empowered wife. Please subscribe. I typically upload every Sunday. I've got more to come for the rest of the year, of course. This channel and this community of ladies that shows up here each week have been so amazing in my journey, but I think in each other's journeys, we have been able to really encourage each other and get different perspectives and thoughts around what it takes to level up your life and ultimately, I think, go after your goals, your dreams, and your desires. We only get one life to live, and so I just absolutely love this topic. Skill number 6 of the empowered wife is refocusing your view with gratitude. I'm just going to jump right into this. Now, before I start off, Laura starts off by saying that this is, the first chapter is, this is the most powerful skill to learn, which is interesting. I guess that's why she saved it for last. I'm going to read this first part in the beginning here where she sets up the skill as she has been doing all along. And it says, refocusing your view with gratitude may be the most powerful intimacy skill of all because it does double duty. First, it shifts your focus from what you don't like to what you do like. And since what you focus on increases, just doing that makes a dramatic, positive, immediate change in your relationship. And then she goes on to say, second, by expressing gratitude, you're actually causing people to respond to you differently. If you make someone who has done you a small favor feel like he did you a big one, he's more likely to want to do things to please you in the future. When you can't please someone, it's human nature to get discouraged and give up. Expressing gratitude will make your husband feel appreciated and inspired to want to do more to please you. So I don't really get into this too much here on the channel. I have different experience with this, but this introduction made me think about how powerful affirmations can be for your level up journey and for getting to experience, see, do have the things that you want in your life. And so if you're familiar with some of my journaling routines, I always start out my journaling sessions with gratitude, because for me, I love to see how can I improve something, how can I make things better, and that is sometimes one of my faults in my relationship is that I always see room for improvement. And gratitude, I have found, really grounds me, really anchors me, and it does exactly what she's saying. I fully agree with her statement on refocusing your view with gratitude and how powerful it is. I think that I probably don't do this enough in my marriage, and I should do more of it, especially now that we are parents and we are journeying through parenthood together. So this is a big one, and I have been experimenting with this so far. So let me go on to a little bit about the prescription, which is something I do really like about this book, is there's always like a practical application or a way to experiment with each skill in your own relationships. She says, express gratitude to your husband 3 times a day. It can be for ordinary things like taking out the trash, making coffee, or stopping at the store to get milk. Or it could be for things like working hard to support the family, moving where you want to live, or giving you 3 great kids. So that has been my experiment, and I'm already very encouraged by that, the way that I've been applying it and the results I've been seeing. But I'm not going to go into my full transformation from applying the things in this book and experimenting with them until my next video. So make sure if you have not already, please subscribe so that you will not miss that, because I will cover it in the end of this series. All right, so chapter number 24 I mentioned is entitled The Most Powerful Intimacy Skill of All. This quote here, again, brought back to mind how powerful it can be for not just our relationships, but anything that we want to change and bring more good of or bring more of into our lives. And it says, it's a quote by Glennon Doyle. It says, when I feel lacking, I don't need new things. I need new eyes with which to see things I already have. So when I woke up this morning, I walked into my kitchen wearing fresh perspectacles. It's a little play on words. I like that. And that's something that I wrote in my journal. I wanted to remember this quote because that feeling of lack can be very detrimental to anything that you want to improve. So remember, even if you feel like your relationship is great right now and you are not necessarily working on that area of your level up, feeling that lack feeling is going to more than likely bring in more lack into your life instead of abundance. And abundance is where I like to keep my energy as much as possible. Okay, so then this chapter goes on to further explain what bringing in more gratitude entails for your relationship. And I think, like she mentions, it opens up possibilities that didn't seem to exist before. And so I think for me, I really thought about this, and I really thought about, okay, I think I see all of the sort of, I don't want to say cliche things. They're not cliche, like the things that we often take for granted, especially living here. If you live in the US like I do, there are so many things that we take for granted if you are in any sort of relationship where you share a house, you share a shelter together, you both have food every night for dinner, lunch, breakfast. You are able to go out there and you have the freedom to go and work on your career, improve yourself, the rest of the world does not have all of those things that, we, I think, just take for granted here. And so I thought about that a little bit more and realized that, where I see a lot of room for improvement, I do have some of the most amazing things that a lot of women in this world don't get to have. And so when you think about it from that perspective, I'm always careful because I don't want to invalidate my own challenges. I think, we all have, it's all relative, right? But at the same time, when you remember that you have things to be thankful for, it really does change your whole perspective, which in turn, I think, changes the way that you feel, the way you act, and so on and so forth. And that's why it's so important, because your actions kind of feed from those feelings, right? So she says, one of the examples here, which I also really love when you're communicating with your husband, I love that she gives examples. She says in this example, which I was so guilty of, that, she had noticed her husband made the bed years ago, she said this was, and instead of saying thank you, she would say, now how about fluffing the pillows? There was always an extra add-on that she was putting on him. And she said that back then she was afraid that if she thanked him for taking out the trash, that he would think it was optional and stop doing it. And she said it turns out that it was just the opposite for her. She said that the more she appreciated her husband's efforts, the more motivated he was to do things that made her happy. So if you think back to the very beginning of this book and the first skill, which is talking about self-care and how you are the one responsible for your happiness, a man is more motivated to then therefore make you happy. And I loved the phrase that she gave us in the beginning, which was, when you have a desire that you want to express to your husband that you want from him, whether it's to do something or you want to have something like a gift, you express that as something that you would love to have, because men do strive to make you happy. Your husband should be ultimately striving to make you happy. They want you to be happy. And so I thought that was interesting. And I can think of many times that I have said thank you for something, but it wasn't done the way that I want. You know, the type A personality where I have things, there's a certain way I want to fold the laundry and put it away. There's a certain way that I put groceries away, you know. I need to remember that it's important to just say thank you and stop piling those things on top, because it shows more gratitude when you don't add on XYZ to what you're being grateful for. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up here with this chapter by just mentioning the gratitude experiment that Laura brings up. So she says to try your own gratitude experiment for your marriage and start by making a list of things that you appreciate about your husband in honor. She tells the story about Zig Ziglar. Is it Zig Ziglar? Zig Ziglar. She tells the story about Zig Ziglar in this chapter, and she says that in honor of Zig, try to come up with 22 things that you appreciate about your husband and write them in your journal. And this was harder. I did this. I actually did this. Here's my list for proof. I just thought about some of the simple things, but it got harder towards the end. I will admit it was harder for me to think about some of the things that I'm truly grateful for about my husband. And you know, so I'm not saying for everyone this is going to be a walk in the park. Even if you do have a wonderful marriage, there might be some things that you go draw a blank on. But I thought that this was a really good exercise for me, and I experienced a lot of benefit from it. And the lady in this chapter that she talks about, she did that exercise every day with her list, where she would read the list to herself. And you know, how many times do we hear other people talk about the power of affirmations for changing your beliefs about your own self-worth and what you're capable of, and creating a new story for yourself. And so I think for some of the ladies out there who may be going through a need for transformation in their relationship, this can help you to feel more grateful for things. If you were trying to get your man to level up with you and he's just still kind of in like average Joe territory, you may start to see that he's really not an average Joe and he's doing a lot. And there's a lot to be grateful for and have some patience with, you know, versus letting that frustrate you. Chapter 25 is the power of the spouse fulfilling prophecy. And so again, she's talking more specifically about affirmations in this chapter. And wow, you know, I have done a lot of this type of work for myself. This was the type of work that I had to do in order to, for example, even show up here on YouTube, because I didn't feel like I really had the confidence and the courage, and I didn't know why I would even feel like anyone would listen to me. You know, I had to work a lot on my affirmations and beliefs about myself. And this was also true in my job, in my career, and even as a mother. So this I'm a very big proponent of. I'm really interested and motivated by this for my relationship, and this has a very practical application and is worth experimenting with. And so I've already tried some of it with my husband, and I've gotten some confused comments back, but I think I'm going to keep on going, and you'll hear next week how it all ends up for us. And so stay tuned for that. But this was also something that I definitely wanted to mention, and I'm glad that she included it. So I'm going to wrap up this skill here, and last I'll mention, you know, in the final wrap up video, there's 2 more chapters where she's talking about this connection framework, and the final chapter I think sums it all up. It's titled Ending World Divorce. That's going to all come into my final review video. I have gathered so many thoughts. I have appreciated a lot of your comments on each of the skills on these videos, because, you know, granted, I'm sharing from my own personal perspective, my own personal experience, and all of us are so unique, right? We've been married for different periods of time. Some of us are not married. Some of us have gone through the divorce, unfortunately, and we've had some very real, hurts from relationships in our past. And so it's been really amazing to read different perspectives, especially on some of the topics that Laura shares and the advice that she shares around that. And it's so hard, I think, to share in a way that, you can gather what she is saying and take it to be applied to your relationship. But first you have to kind of grasp it and ask yourself, is this something that I even want to take action on or not? And I think that's just really the beauty of being able to pick up a book or listen to a video or a podcast or something. And you should critically think about all of the information that you take in for your life before you act on it. That is just rule number one of being a wise woman in this modern society. And so I'm really grateful for that aspect of having this channel and going through this book. I've seen some really amazing and encouraging feedback from women who have been just really blessed by applying these skills and working on them. And so that's been really great. And I'm so grateful that you've joined me, and some of you have already seen some really encouraging results in your relationships. So next week I will be back. I am looking forward to wrapping up this series with all of you. Again, thanks for being here. If you have not caught up with me yet, please go through my playlist or click on one of these videos here that you have not seen, and I would love to get to know you a little bit better down in the comments below. Let me know so far, out of all 6 skills, what has been your most useful and what has been one that you think is just that's going to be thrown out because this is not going to serve any purpose in your relationship. I would love to hear that down in the comments below. And until next time, bye.